Hey guys, Henry here, and thank you so much for tuning in to a quick marketing video. Really what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is Pareto's principle, and that is, we all familiar with it, the 80-20 rule, right? So first off, if you're in solar, I mean, you kind of know me probably. I've been around for quite a bit. Solar lead generation, I have a very unique process, for really improving your experience with your own and operated lead gen mechanism. I'm calling it the Evergreen Solar Webinar Sales Machine. I want to be talking a little bit about some of the elements there. But if you're here and you're seeing this video, and if you're into marketing, this is going to apply to you as well. So regardless of what brought you here, go ahead and like and subscribe and stay tuned for more. Really what I want to talk about today is the principle of the 80-20 rule, and I think that everybody is familiar with it for the most part, right? But I wanted to really dive into explaining why this particular rule is so powerful, specifically to the new strategy that I'm deploying with clients and customers that I'm working with all over the country. Specific to solar sales, specific to roof sales. We have individuals that are running this strategy also for, HVAC, for fire, for water filtration. Really, the webinar sales methodology is a tried and true, proven sales methodology when it's implemented and pulled off in the right way. But really what's most important here, I think, is the ability to fine-tune our understanding of who it is that is taking the webinar itself, right? And seeing what they're doing within webinar through real data and real statistics, right? Understanding how far that individual got into the webinar, how indoctrinated they are to the messaging. So let's take solar, for example. We run a different type of ad that's bringing an individual into an info share that they're seeking, right? So we're placing an ad in front of them that's completely different. It's about value. It's leading with value, right? And so an interested homeowner that has an interest in solar is going to register for a webinar. Whenever they register, we get a good first name, last name. We get, good contact information, because they know that in order to take part in what they're signing up for, they have to give, a good phone number, good email, so that they can get the link and actually partake in the info share. Once we get them in there, right, the webinar strategy it's built as such to convert. It's built as such to indoctrinate, introduce, build trust. The call to action happens quite a bit earlier than the typical webinar. The typical webinar that you might have experienced oftentimes is geared towards selling a product, right? You're asking for money. In this particular scenario, we're not asking for any money. We are putting on a consultation hat, and we're simply inviting them to discover more, to see if, for example, solar is a fit for them, because solar, it's not a fit for everybody, right? There's unique situations that come into play. And so if an individual is getting the salesperson's very best pitch in an evergreen webinar format, available 24/7, then the call to action happens much earlier than it typically would in a webinar that's trying to sell something. And the reason being is because when we put that call to action a little earlier in the webinar, we're able to gauge how much post call to action that individual hung around to get more value, to know and understand more about the product offering, to know and understand more about the individual salesperson providing the evergreen webinar, their brand, their persona. We're trying to fill a trust bucket so that those individuals feel good about the decision to move forward and get more information to see whether or not solar, in this example, is a fit for them, right? On the back end of the webinar, right? So we have the ability to lead score all of these individuals. This is where the 80-20 rule comes into play, simply because in the typical realm of lead generation right now, right, if you're selling solar, you're knocking doors, you're buying appointments, you're buying leads. Chances are those are non-branded, as far as leads go. Most of the time it's non-branded. Very seldomly do we have a sales organization or individual rep running their own advertising, promoting their own brand. Most people are simply, exchanging money for information, hoping to be able to reach those individuals, those leads, non-branded, right? So really you're guessing. You have no clue what brought that lead in, have no clue what kind of information that they saw online and what they opted into, and you certainly aren't able to nurture outside of simply just sending an email and a text begging them to simply book an appointment. There is a disconnect in the way that most reps, most organizations are purchasing lead opportunities. They are dead in the water because they don't have the ability to really understand that prospect, much less be able to effectively nurture them, aside from just some reminders to simply book an appointment. When you own your own and operated messaging, you own your own, mechanism, if you will, then you're in control of the advertising. You're in control of what they see, right? You're in control of the narrative. You're in control of what they're exposed to. You're in control of the pitch, right? And so based on that, we also have a viewpoint into how much they consumed, which is going to make us and allow for us to really focus our nurturing in the way of additional value, right? And when you have an individual that has opted in to your funnel and you control the messaging, you control the pitch, you control everything about it, then on the back end you're going to be able to very effectively nurture them outside of just simply reminders and asking them to book an appointment. You can use the psychology of marketing. You can attack different angles, right? You could lead with value in several different ways. What you're able to do when you have the data and the statistics on the back end of how much they have been exposed and indoctrinated to your messaging, you're able to double down most effectively on that different type of nurturing and spend time on the individuals that are closest to conversion. And here in this strategy, the conversion is not the sale, right? The conversion is a simple conversion of booking an appointment. That is a much easier ask after an individual has spent and consumed a certain amount of time with you and you have built trust through this proven mechanism, of info share, trust building, webinar psychology, right? So at the end of the day, on the back end, let's say that there's 100, registrations in a given week, and you notice that, 40% of them watched 80% or more of the actual, presentation. We're going to expect a good portion of those to actually book on your calendar within the webinar by simply clicking the call to action button and selecting a date and time, right? That's going to happen. But for those individuals that do not take that step, and yet you know that they have watched 80% of the webinar, when the actual call to action happened at 50%, you have an individual that stuck around for, say, 30% longer than the actual call to action, which tells you they are interested. In marketing, people have to be touched multiple times, oftentimes, to make a decision, right? So most effective marketing is going to go after that individual where they're at. So in this particular example, when that individual has watched 30% beyond the call to action, we know that they've watched 80% cumulatively of the actual presentation. Now you can dial in your nurturing, you can dial in a customer service call, you can do a lot of different things to have a completely different type of conversation with that individual that's most interested. And out of that is going to come the majority of your sales, right? So this is a very methodical approach to actually, dialing into the most effective means to reach those individuals inside of your sales funnel that has been branded as you, your persona, your company, all of those things, right? To reach them with where they're at and to push them into the decision of simply a booked appointment. When you get that appointment, then you're off to the races, right? Oftentimes we only need an opportunity to get in front of an individual in order to sell them. However, in the current state of things, it's getting increasingly hard to get in front of an individual to even have an opportunity to earn trust. The webinar platform allows for that to happen on autopilot, right? So the 80-20 rule is going to apply very, very strongly here because you're going to spend the majority of your efforts on those that 80% of those individuals that are truly interested, truly indoctrinated, and that's going to help your closing ratios be predictable, right? And that's what you should be after in marketing your product and your service. Do not throw money at the wind, right, and just hope for the best. You have to have a different strategy in 2025 and beyond because consumer behavior has changed. I hope this video has shed a little bit of light on how you can be most effective by implementing a very specific type of system where you can actually take action on those individuals and know without, beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're working on the individuals that you should be working on. Those individuals that have watched and consumed a lesser amount, we still are going to nurture them. It's going to be a completely different nurture, right? Aimed at a different result. We want to bring them along deeper into the funnel so that we can hit them with the nurture that matters most after they have been indoctrinated. This is a methodical approach, right? Using a tried and true mechanism where you have data on the back end and lead scoring to guide your actions in the most efficient way. All right, so once again, I'm Henry Melindy. Go ahead and like and subscribe. I'm going to be dropping a lot of information here to expand on this. Doesn't matter if you're selling solar, if you're selling roofing, HVAC, or whatever the product is. Maybe you're selling coaching, right? I'm sharing as much as I possibly can about this methodology because it is converting very, very well in the current state of things, right? And you need to be thinking outside of the box. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.